Hi friends, and welcome back to Raft. Today we're going over some unconventional building hacks for Raft. After the renovation update came out, there was a change to the number of decoration items in the game and the way in which you could use them. And you may have noticed I always start my videos off with one of these more intricate rafts that I have designed and built up myself. And so we're going to go over some of the weirder ways you can use certain items, ranging from relatively normal to completely weird. So without further ado, let's get into some weird build hacks for Raft. So here we are in our building test world, where things are going to start off relatively normal and get into the absolutely strange by the end. So let's start off with the relatively normal. Starting off, we've got fences. Of course, in the game, there are a few kinds of fences you could build just with the natural game mechanics, such as a plank fence, a rope fence, and your solid wood fence. These are all decorative, they all serve exactly the purpose you would expect a fence to serve, and they look like fences. But what if you wanted something a bit more decorative? Well, you could also use cupboards to design your own kind of more solid looking fence. And it has the added benefit of being able to store things. So if you had a ton of extra items and you wanted to make the border of your raft a bit more distinct, this is an option for you. Alternatively, if you wanted a bit more of a picket fence look, you could always just use signs and turn them the other way. So, either one of those is a valid option for a fence, and it's completely functional. You can't walk through either of these, and neither can animals. Then we've got bookcases. You can actually stack tables on top of each other and make your own custom shelves rather than relying on the few kinds of shelves that are listed in the decoration menu. So you can use either of these, of course, and all of these, and you can actually also put tables directly on walls to make their own kind of shelves. Obviously this won't fit here since I already have tables placed, but there are a few more options, so don't limit yourself to just generic shelves if you don't like them. Now we're going to start getting into the stuff that's a bit strange but still relatively normal. So we've got an option to make floating floors. So usually if you play a lot of Raft and you build a lot of floors in Raft, you know that you can only build floors out when they're at least right next to a wall or a pillar. So if I try and build one back out here, it's not going to build because it's not supported. Well, what if I wanted to build something, but I don't want to have pillars every 2 blocks? Well, simply enough, if you use the triangle floor option, you can place one, and then just rotate another one and place it in the same stead. Now if we grab our axe out of here, and we delete all of these because these aren't supported, we can for some reason destroy the pillar, and these will stand. So these can float without actually needing to be supported. So that's great. However, if you don't want to waste a ton of your materials on just building up random pillars, we can just go ahead and build another one. Then if you build 2 half pillars, you'll actually get all of the materials back from building your normal pillars. So whereas normally when you destroy things in Raft, you only get a limited subset of your materials back, but if you build the half pillars, you get everything back. So you can just do this infinitely. It just requires a lot of time. Moving on, we've got curtains. So in the base game, there are 2 options for curtains. You've got this kind of side long one, and you've got this foldy down one, as I like to call it. Very technical terms. And those are both well and good, but they only work for this size of window. But what if I wanted something a little bit bigger? These are just flags that you pick up from the decoration packages floating around the ocean, which will spawn in your world after you've played for 30 minutes in a save file. And these you can just put 2 flags on the ceiling. They actually do need a ceiling for this, versus these you can just place on the wall behind your window. You do need to place these on the ceiling. For a slightly larger window effect. And plus, I think it looks nice because these actually flow in the wind versus these are pretty stagnant. So I think this looks a little more alive, if you will. Then we've got some options for lighting. So normally in the game, you've got your generic torch, which is a pretty simple basic material, and then you've got your lanterns, which are a bit more refined. And so just to take these up to the next level, since this looks a little bit rough and this is your only option for placing the lantern at a higher level, pretty much, what if you just put down pillars and then put the lights on either side? You can actually only put 2 on this one because they're too big to fit on all 4 sides. Or this one you can actually put all 4 sides. So if you've got a bigger outdoor raft and you want to light it up without having to stick a lantern everywhere, this is a great option for you, and it looks a little cleaner. Speaking of pillars, there's a few different options for the ways you can use them. You can actually put carpets on top of them, and if you're careful about the way you place your carpets, you can just make these nice little continuous lines. They kind of make like a veranda or like an outdoor area, you know? It's a nice decoration option, but especially if you paint them, it can look really clean and pretty nice in my opinion. In that same vein, you can actually put pretty much anything on pillars. I don't think you can put beds, but I tested out a lot of objects to see if they would fit, and you'd be surprised. The best part about this is you can even get into the bathtub and stand on top of it, and this receiver, if I had antenna placed around, would actually be fully functional. So, I don't know why, but if you wanted to, you could put everything on pillars. The same actually goes for the tiki pole if you want to build that at the end of your save. If you've done everything else and you've collected all of these, you can also put everything on top of a tiki pole that you could put on a pillar, just in case you were wondering. Continuing with our theme of slightly unusual uses for pillars, we come up with stacking things. So as you can see here, I've got 5 storages placed on top of one another, which normally you can't actually physically stack these things in Raft, but if we place one of our handy-dandy pillars around behind, for some reason this just makes it fine, so you can just place all of them against the pillar, and now you have a wall of chests. So say you didn't want to build a full storage room or anything, or you had a really tiny raft, this is a great way to condense your storage system without having to make a ton of extra floor space, basically. We can also do it kind of like this and make a staircase out of it. So this is a perfectly functional staircase to go up, but it also holds things, you know? So say you don't like the ladders, so you don't like the staircases, you could technically build a staircase using small storages. For whatever reason, you can't do this using the large storages, but you can using the small ones. So take that as you will. Or if you wanted something a bit weirder to jump on top of, large trophy boards can also be used as a sort of staircase. Again, don't know why you would, but say you didn't want to take up any staircase whatsoever, this does actually work for some reason. And then you could put nice displays in there, just in case you wanted to. Back to the slightly more conventional uses for building things in Raft, we have the ability to use shelves as a bit of an extension for your rooftops. So say you're building a lovely raft and you want the roof to have a tiny bit of trim to it, so it has a little bit more dynamic. You can actually put shelves on walls and destroy the walls, and the shelves will remain. So then you have this lovely different, like, jut out, basically, so that it has a little bit more dimension, if you will. There's also the orb over there, but we don't talk about that. And finally, for our least conventional method of building, we have basically that you can use a lot of things to parkour and navigate up. But remember how I showed you that you can get on top of the bathtub by putting it on a pillar, like over there? Yeah, you can just take this to insane lengths. So, you see that? This is fully functional. In case, for whatever reason, you don't like just having a tower of ladders, you can in fact just have bathtubs, and it does work. This is fully functional. It takes longer than going up ladders, it requires a heck of a lot more resources, but you can do this for whatever reason. And you can just keep going up, using a ton of bathtubs and a ton of pillars. So in case you wanted some kind of weird bathtub elevator, that is indeed an option in the game. Or if you really wanted to show off your skills, you could even use the bathtubs to pull off the same kind of MLG water bucket trick that you do in Minecraft. So that's a thing. So that does it for today's unconventional raft building hacks. Please let me know if there's anything I missed that you do in your worlds, or if there's any of these that you found particularly interesting. I'm personally a huge fan of the bathtub elevator because it's just whack. That makes no sense and I love it. Anyways, please consider leaving a like if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And as always, have a great day.